not in a rush? You in a rush? Yes, she is. She is. Okay.
I'm lactating. That's why.
All the lactating women in the room really should raise their hands just so we know where you are. Wow. Paul Lipson is gone. So I will read the next award because this is actually one of the most coveted awards. It's our annual award for most gratuitous media appearance of the year. I think there are like 15 nominees here, so bear with me. Liar, Gersh Country, will now read this one. Our first nominee, three-time Lipson Cup winner, Paul Lipson, might not have made it into this year's list were it not for the lax editorial standards of the New York Times and the lax journalistic ethics of Stephanie Dolgoff. First, hold on. First, we get to the Grey Ladies. Ever eager to tell the story of minority neighborhoods through their colonial white overseers, Times reporters naturally latched on to the photogenic Paul Lipson. He's quotable, of course, and to date he has been quoted as a source on stories about solid waste, legitimate, prostitution in Hunts Point, legitimate, the resurgence of culture on Oneida Street, that's legitimate, he's part of it, the revitalization of the Bronx River, and the crying shame that you can't find a good bagel on Bruckner Boulevard. One reporter obviously so in the thrall of Lipson's encyclopedic knowledge of the South Bronx went so far as to say that the suburbs-born Lipson was, quote, born in the neighborhood in the 1950s. This was actually in the New York Times.
Fact checker.
As for Dolgoff, she too discovered the usefulness of having some man-meat like Lipson around. Since she and Lipson hooked up, Dolgoff has used hardly fictional references of Lipson in such glamour magazine stories as, quote, the right man is right under your nose, quote, 650,000 ways to make sex sweeter, and the forthcoming, hell, my boyfriend has a bent penis. Paul Lipson, ladies and
Sham.
That's a sham. Our next nominee also has Stephanie Dolgoff's journalistic standards to thank here. Come on, that's fair. When Dolgoff needed a boy toy to serve as a character in a glamour story, she called up none other than James Elmore Bradley. But then rechristened him as an Irish writer named John, spelled in the decidedly Jewish way, J-O-N. Hello, gratuitous media appearance. Our next nominee is so full of shit that he warrants... I'm very believed there. Our next nominee is so full of shit that he warrants not only a nomination here, but a lie detector test. When Marie Claire magazines did a cover story, do you get enough sex? Our nominee, Kyle Smith, provided this unedited answer. Quote, I have sex once or twice a week. Guys who are getting laid more than that are stepping over baby toys. Any of the guys who are stepping over baby toys want to question that? Even when, this is part of the quote, even when sex is bad, it's still pretty damn good. I'd walk out of a bad movie, but I'd never walk out on bad sex. If only, and the thing is, if only the women Kyle's been with could say the same thing. Once or twice a week, my ass. Unbelievable gall. David Shank earns his nomination for finishing second. Unbelievable. Someone gives him a second place award. It's so absurd. I mean, it's like all these foundations are like giving awards. I mean, what? Anyway. Finishing second for Fordham University's Donald McGannon Communication Research Center Annual Book Award for Social and Ethical Relevance in Communications Policy.
There was more than one.
I gotta salute a guy who stays relevant in communications policy and research with a book that he was published 2 years earlier. I salute that. Way to stay relevant in communications policy and research, David Shank. Hold on, we got 2 more nominees. This is a very hotly contested. There can be little more gratuitous than our next nominee. In fact, he would not even appear in a major American newspaper were it not for his ability to fashion, with no advance warning, timely quotes about baseball. this very reporter called nominee Eric Noodles Bennett several times from the press box at Turner Field for helping interpreting the Mets spectacle unfolding in front of him. Sham! When I needed Noodles to say for attribution, "Oh, a rude awakening!" He was there for me. That's probably the last time you'll ever hear that. But his most gratuitous moment came when I called him to ask whether he'd be rooting, like most Met fans, for the Yankees to defeat the hated Braves in the World Series. Because, you know, the Braves beat the Mets and we hated the Braves. He questioned the very premise of the question. "I won't root for either of them," he said. "The enemy of my enemy is my worst enemy." It's an actual quote appeared in the New York Post. My feeling is that only the Israelis would say the same thing about the Saudis. So there's the Eric Noodles Bennett. I don't even know what that is. Our final nominee's appearance was not so much gratuitous as it was an example of the raw power wielded by furniture industry publicists nowadays. I mean, they got all the power in the world. Woodshop News, that's a very venerable institution. That's a very venerable institution. Offered to do a feature story on Jonah Zuckerman, who, you know Jonah, according to Interior Design magazine, Jonah Zuckerman, quote, "designs on his own terms with straightforward architecture and logical designs." I mean, so that's worthy of a story in Woodshop News, am I right? But no. A mere feature inside the magazine wasn't enough for Zuckerman's agent and William Morris. No. He demanded the cover. So in the end, Woodshop News, which I thought had more balls, I really did. I thought they stood for something. These magazines, I mean, I know when Porcello, when GQ, you know, puts Tyra Banks on the cover, like, all right, I know they got to deal with the agents. I understand that they have no balls, they have nothing. But Woodshop News, they stand for something. Well, they knuckled under. They wrote a puff piece about Zuckerman that said he, quote, builds contemporary furniture which highlights traditional joinery and craftsmanship. I mean, the whole experience made me question the integrity of woodworking journalism today. There he is, John Zuckerman. The winner of this award, of course, walks home with a copy of the WWF Wrestling Calendar 2000. And our celebrated American Irish medal, Memorial Irish medal. I gotta say, I don't know who the winner is. And the winner is, I got goosebumps.
You nominated for this, let's pay attention.
Kyle Smith, ladies and gentlemen.
I know, I'm just twice a week. Twice a week. Twice a week. Twice a week. What about bad sex? What is that secret?
I gotta say, when I grew up in a small coal mining town in West Virginia, I never thought I'd be in this place where I am today, receiving one of the most prestigious wrestling calendars I've ever seen. The important thing to remember is, I go through my daily life asking myself, WWGD, what would Gersh do? This man is my beacon, my light in the room, my best buddy, my best
So that's the twice a week sex thing going on?
That's it? Oh, there he goes. Wow. What a nominee. We've got food coming, so I think the time has come for us to put aside foolish things and eat something.
Actually, that I don't want any coverage of this event.
Paul, somebody has to monitor your alcohol intake.
I have to say, the pointer has gone like this, and nobody has said stop.
Well, we're just monitoring it.
All right, thank you, doctor.
Not curtailing it.
Thank you. You're my herpetologist.
Wine is good for cholesterol.
He wrote Data Smog. The Data Smog was not merely a book, not merely a tome. It was a seminal work. Okay? It was a seminal work. T. Weiler knows a lot about that. It was a seminal work on what it is to be a person in the 21st century. Well, now, David Schenk is retooling. He's got the Alzheimer's book coming out. He wrote a book this year. He's got books, he's got magazine articles. His brother, what's his brother's name? Josh Wolf. Josh Wolf Schenk.
Something like that.
He uses the middle name Wolf. Josh Wolf Schenk. Joshua Wolf Schenk wrote a very important, very pretentious, very important article about. No, it was, I don't know if you read it. It was in Harper's. So that was like the Stanford group. It was about like why should alcohol be legal if marijuana is not legal, and why should Prozac be legal if you know cocaine is illegal? I mean, why we got this whole drug thing going on? That's what the article's about, am I right? Okay, so with Joshua Wolfshank and David Wolfshank, and plus the addition, we're gonna get to it. Plus the addition of Amy Waldman from the New York Times, you got the Shanks Agency.
Oh no.
I don't know what it is. So anyway, we've got many nominees. I'd like to get through this before the 1 o'clock.
How do you know about Amy Waldman?
This is the
Wait a
category.
minute. Amy Waldman, the famous.
Amy Waldman, who Paul tried to make a pass at and failed, and then she didn't include it in one of her articles about the South Bronx, which speaks to her credibility.
Very pre-Stephanie.
Certainly deserving nomination here.
Like August, July. Oh, you're right.
Well, where is it? All right, anyway, we've got the last award. I know, it's unbelievable. Anyway, our first nominee, Stephanie Dolgoff, of course. Wait, she doesn't have the glasses, it's true. When glamour editrix Bonnie Fuller ordered up a story about female masturbation, Dolgoff quickly turned the piece into a seminal tome about self-love, which included a vital list of female euphemisms for what men call choking the chicken.
Is that all the word you want there?
I don't have an alternative. Unless you do. Such as, and I am quoting here, quote, having a private pleasure party, quote, stirring the soup, and my personal favorite, and this is a quote, hee-hawing the meemaw. That is true. Now that is one piece of bars. Pete Weiler, our next nominee. He didn't expect the nomination here, so just being nominated is an honor. The epic poet of Worcester, Massachusetts, and of course you remember his seminal collection of poems, Mayor Mariano is a fucking crook, and other poems by Pete Weiler, might have been forgotten this year, were it not for his attempt to canoe from Worcester to Providence via the Blackstone River, several smaller creeks, a drainage ditch, and a puddle in front of a Costco. Weiler, we almost made it. His slogan was, we almost made it.
Not once, but twice.
Weiler turned the experience into a 70,000-word story called, quote, I would have made it if it wasn't for the fucking drought. His mistake, however, was not the foolish notion that somebody might want to read this semi-autobiographical self-indulgent rambling, but that his mistake was that he didn't live in New York, where some magazine editor, known only to David Schenk, certainly would have paid him royally to hear more. Pete Weiler, ladies and gentlemen. The foundation would be remiss without singling out the fine work of Lawrence Goodman in this category.
Surprise nomination.
Yeah, real surprise. In this category. While it has become de rigueur in the old media to use words like de rigueur, Goodman's clean, exact prose stands out in the new media. Here is but a sample of Goodman's work, first published at http://philadelphia.city.com/e/FIPA/00/00/41/.
All right. That's just real estate.
I know, if you can get that address, you're going to pay millions for that. It was published at that site, and the site is still up. I checked it yesterday. But it's certain to be showing up in a free weekly near you. Here is the quote. Writing about West Philadelphia, Goodman said, West Philly is, quote, the most desirable place to live in the city, end quote. An overstatement, you say? No, Goodman backs it up with solid research, telling the reader, quote, The area is sure to be hot, hot, hot very soon. End quote. After admitting, I got more, okay? After admitting that the neighborhood is still a bit unsafe, Goodman concludes that, quote, with a little common sense and cautiousness, a jaunt here still rewards. End quote. He also, there's more. He also had the insight to tell the story of visionary sausage maker Fred Wolf, who searched, quote, for a more healthful yet equally tasty alternative to his grandfather's cholesterol-laden pork sausage recipes. He found that dried fruit worked very effectively in absorbing meat juices, meaning that he could substitute less succulent poultry for pork and not worry about a fall-off in meaty flavor. End quote. I gotta say, it's amazing they don't give Pulitzers for online journalism. There he is, Lawrence Goodman.
Learn the Shanky by including me.
You deserve your nomination. Lawrence Gardner, where is he, folks? There he is, right here. You know he's lucky. He has only himself to blame for this year's nomination. While most of us were content to ride out last year's impeachment, Gardner decided to ride it to scientific fame and limited fortune by penning a purportedly well-researched report claiming that President Clinton did not lie to the American people about having sex with Monica Lewinsky. He merely suffered from post-coital amnesia, a common sexual side effect.
Sham!
Hold on. It's all true. The BBC picked up on Gardner's Lancet. It was published in the journal Lancet. You read the New York Times? To be published tomorrow in Lancet.
Did you really write this? Did you write
It was published in Lancet. Lancet?
Lancet.
Why are we talking about
Kudos to you.
Well, it was published in Lancet.
Ever.
It was published in Lancet. And the problem is the BBC picked up on the Lancet report and referred to Gardner throughout the story by calling him by the misnomer Dr. Gardner. He actually is a doctor, we don't know what kind.
It's actually a man.
But to truly qualify for this category, sorry, to truly to do something in this category, you have to write or say something that is
Stop
incomprehensible.
interrogating him, okay?
You have to write or say something that is incomprehensible to Gersh Kunstler. So here is Gardner's winning nomination. This is from his Lancet article. Quote, a presidential Valsalva maneuver during each of the recent episodes may have legally allowed him not to recall specific events and may thereby help maintain international stability during the current transient global economic fluctuation. Fantastic. I know what that means. Philip Noble, there he is. Philip Noble in the back. He's got the frames. He is about as close to a member of the Shankitanker as you can get. An architect. Is there a problem here? You don't get nominated, don't worry. An architect by training, Noble resists no impulse to dish architecture gossip for an astounding array of publications that only David Schenck has heard of. Noble's biting criticism. Remember, he was the man who said architect Der Scut put the rump in Trump Tower. His biting satire has earned him the nickname the bad boy of architecture gossip. And who could forget, and really, in all seriousness, who could forget his war of attrition with boozy Times architecture critic Herbert, my favorite building is Francis Tavern Mooschamp, himself a lapsed member of the Shankitanker. Thank you, Phil Noble. A lot of you didn't get the inside jokes there. I apologize. That was good, right? The guy. Mooschamp.
You pronounce Mooschamp correctly?
I may not have, but Francis Tavern. You see, you get it? Just as Hillary Clinton is walking through the thicket. That was pretty good, right? Thank you. Give me a hug here. Come on. Hey. Okay.
I got this boy.
Unbelievable. The only person who gets the joke, even Noble didn't get the joke, it's about him. Just as Hillary Clinton is walking through the thicket of New York's racial politics right now, our own Ben Rubin recently learned a similar lesson about what it's like to work for the New York City Police Department, yet try to emerge with your credibility intact. You guys read those articles about that really lousy police department museum downtown? Well, Ben designed it. Now, okay, in all fairness, fairness, Bennett's design, original design, was for a museum that would treat the NYPD in a harsh but fair light, celebrating the NYPD's great victories while shining the light of truth. While shining the light of truth on its harsh atrocities. Well, you know what happened, of course. You're all members of the foundation. The harshest atrocities ended up on the cutting room floor just behind Howie Safer's desk and next to Marilyn Mode's dog, I might add. It's an inside joke. While Reuben was forced to strip his name from the project. You didn't get that? No, but I'll explain.
Wait, who got that joke? Anyone?
There you go, thank you.
Wow, we got 5 people. Are you serious?
While Reuben was forced to strip his name from the project, just like Schenck did when Outlaw Biker brought the first serialization rights to Data Smog. So he's here for that. Anyway, the joke about Marilyn Mode is she's a public affairs commissioner for the NYPD. She always brings her dog to the office.
That's right.
So the Times did a whole story about it.
That's very amusing.
The Times did a whole story about that. Oh, they didn't quote you, I guess. Hee-haw your move-haw.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Thank you. I'd like to hee-haw your move-haw. As a friend of Schenck, Daniel Radosh has had the fruit. First time nominee, long time listener. He has had the fruits of the Schenck Agencia dangled before him, much like Tantalus. Hey, maybe that earns me a nomination. Anyway, but Radosh, get that Tantalus? Anyway, but Radosh, who grew up in a Park Slope commune, and that is actually true. Right, very close here, about 2 blocks?
Left?
6 blocks.
6 blocks from here.
With left. With left.
Red Diaper Baby.
Red Diaper Baby has been unfairly, he has unfortunately been unfairly denied access into this holy grail of American letters. But like Schenck, Radosh has never actually worked as a reporter, yet that hasn't stopped him from filling the airwaves with an astounding array of astounding array of magazines that only David Schenck has heard of, with his unique brand of media criticism. Although I personally think he was off base when he savagely attacked my recent profile of Professor Putter, the Nobel Prize nominated inventor of Metrogamy. Now you all know that story. Why do you
My dad was that I suggested to you, like 3 months ago, that you should do a story about how everyone's leaving their Metro cards all over the ground, and you said, that's not a story. What kind of idiot would write or read a story about that?
I didn't know what I said.
And then 3 months later, there's the story with no recognition.
This is an ad
Here's the only person who would write it, and here's the only person who would read it.
Fantastic. Well, he's nominated here.
You're both pseudo-Schenck.
Where did you see him?
Professor Putter.
Hey, this is G-Man.
I saw him today.
Professor Putter is one of the great men of our life.
Right?
That's right.
Aren't you glad you invited him?
He turns old Metro cards into Metrogamy.
It could just like Burger
Magical
If you haven't got dessert yet, so where are you going?
Home to my baby.
If you thought the Schenck Agencia didn't extend to the tabloid press, you were wrong. Eric Noodles Bennett. Eric Noodles Bennett, editor of the Penguin Post, earns a nomination here for a bit of reporting that should earn him a Pulitzer. After hearing that unattached male Adelie penguins pay for sex, they actually pay for sex with female penguins. I'm going to get to that. Bennett went undercover, heading to the Baltimore Zoo and dressing as a female penguin. Lo and behold,
Kyle Smith.
is there a problem over here? Lo and behold, several male penguins surrounded him, offering small pebbles and sticks, which is quite an important currency in the penguin world, while performing a mating dance right in front of him. Now, that's enough as to earn him whatever in the Schenck Agencia. But ever the ethical reporter, Bennett's journalistic integrity prevented him from seeing just how far he could take this story. And I salute him in his memory here. Do you want to call Alex? Because she's about to get nominated. It's too late? Despite her proximity to Schenck, Alex Beers has yet to breach the walls of the Schenck Agencia, but this may be her year. After all, not only did she take Schenck on a gallery-by-gallery art tour of Florence, Italy, that forced him to admit that Christ may have been the savior, but Beers personally converted absent foundation member Elisa Zaritsky to yoga. Beers herself understands the difference between all the different types of yoga, which I'm just learning right now, such as Hatha, which roughly translates from the Indian, quote, "You will give all your money to the Rama." And Kripalu yoga. You ever hear of Kripalu yoga? You know what that means? That's Sanskrit for, quote, "You will shave your head and go to the airport and dance, dance, dance." Amazing yoga. So there she is nominated. Actually, that's even bad.
Let's replay that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize in advance.
Defame the Shank.
Before striking it big as a Hollywood sitcom writer, nominee Julie Rottenberg used to write outstanding little blurbs for an outstanding array of diverse magazines, such as Time Out New York and Nickelodeon Magazine. Very diverse. I don't know if you noticed that. Employing a time-honored journalistic tradition, she pitched a story about finding the best apartment cleaners, and then she, like Shank, had the cleanest apartment in New York City. She wrote about it. Now, like Shank, she's currently mining the details of her personal life for greater gain. In this case, a sitcom on ABC starring Stanley Tucci as the thinly veiled Shankleganger and Adam Arkin in the Gersh Kunstman role. Thank you for that. No category about the Shankagentia wannabes is complete without our next nominee, David Shank. Would you just put it aside?
It doesn't make any sense at
After all, this was a year in which the title of Shank's seminal work, Data Smog, was being considered for inclusion in the OED, which I don't know what that is, but I think it stands for the Olfactory Effluvient Directorate. I'm not entirely sure. Am I right about that? And what about Andrew Corsello?
Let's move on. What about it?
Usually nominated for most self-indulgent journalist, this year, Corsello indulged the inner Shank, opining about everything from the moral superiority of the Wilson T2000 tennis racket to the moral inferiority of moron comedy. For example, here's his review of the fine movie, There's Something About Mary. And I'm quoting directly. "Occasionally, because it must, all that repressed frat boy fury erupts, magma-like, through the surface of things, but always in unexpected places, unexpected ways. Within no time at all, the Sigma Chi's and Kappa Sigs and Delta Taus weren't merely laughing. They were ululating like monkeys, making a great display. In essence, before everyone else in the theater, 2 shows for the price of 1. Even before the triumphant debut of Cameron Diaz's jizzy hairdo, their peeling had taken on an unmistakable, vengeful, we win quality. The spectacle of the Farrelly sticking it to the PC police had clearly brought vicarious release. Stupidity is its own justification. The moron comics now rule Hollywood. Adam Sandler, one more sentence. Adam Sandler now commands $20 million a film. 20 million. Behold the renaissance of Le Commedia della Moronita.
Salon Magazine reviewed that article as pompously mannered.
Well, I've got more. Pompously mannered Andrew Corsello. And in a morally indignant article about Hollywood hair, Corsello offered these Shank-like words. Quote,
I would never write Magdalene.
Magdalene is a little bit tough.
You would write ululating though.
Well, I'll show you Magdalene.
Ululating.
Quote, only a mincing Twinkie, a harp-strumming sliff.
Silts.
A harp-strumming
Slip.
Who
Stephanie wrote
values,
about playing with her slip.
who values his own sensitivity and listening skills, strives for hair whose touch conjures some coiffure Persian at a cat show. No! As every red-blooded American male knows in his bones, a man's hair ought to say, quote, I am cruel and manipulative. I am a weapon, unquote. He knows that he ought to chemicalize and harden his mane, so that a woman running her fingers through it will feel as if she were dragging her hand through a shoebox full of candy-coated horseshoe tacks. Yes! He knows he ought to style his hair in a way that justifies standing before a mirror and sonorously quoting Klingon Commander Kor, who so famously declared to Captain James T. Kirk, quote, we are both lions, tigers, killers, and it is precisely that which makes us great. Indeed, every Every male worth his salt knows that when it comes to hair, the prime directive is to be Kirk-like, to prompt others to say, as yet another Klingonese officer once said of the captain, quote, he may be a swaggering, overbearing, tin-plated dictator with delusions of godhood, but he is not soft. Andrew Corsell, ladies and gentlemen.
Artiste!
Our last nominee, Kate Miller.
Is it true that Kirk wears a toupee? That's
I think.
You should have gotten that picture.
Corsell's wearing.
We don't have a budget. And lastly, Kate Miller. Kate Miller remains a stalwart in the Shankagensi, if only because she still refuses to eat red meat, despite growing scientific evidence of its healthful benefits. And she does it for moral reasons, and I respect that. But in addition, she, like Shank's brother, refused to get genetically tested before contemplating having a child. The only knock on her is she didn't write a long article about it for a national magazine. I appreciate it. No, it's true. They mind the details. All right. Anyway. Now we had 15 nominees in that award.
Basically, giving everyone in the room a nomination so I can move on and make my
The winners walk off. Not only the New York City Transit, there may be 3 winners. New York City Transit Award, and also the Borough of Queens Memorial Award. The winners are. Well, in what order? I want to bring them up together.
a new thing, isn't it?
Wow.
What is this award? Get up.
Wow. That's my favorite moment. Wow.
Stephanie Dolgoff. Your more winners. Lawrence Goodman. And David Shank. Ladies.
What does Corsell have to do, huh?
Now, can we take a picture? I don't know. Make a speech. I don't know.
He's more calm shaking out of me.
Go back to the way you once were.
We did it live.
Oh my God. Quite a trio. We should
Shake it off.
I never thought that just buying these glasses would mean so much.
Now I know where to go and talk to them. That's one thing. Any book that you can't hold in one hand, I don't really see the point. Am I bringing down the Shankagensi?
I do not understand Shankagensi at all. That's all I have to say. Sham is not even the
The
word.
real Messiah always denies his true identity.
No. I know a lot about female masturbation. That qualifies me for the Shankagensi.
Why are you looking at me? I didn't make up the term.
There's a lecture later this evening by Kate Miller.
Thank you.
Aww. What do you know about that?
Fantastic.
You know, a lot of people are saying,
Wrap it up already.
that's right.
I'm started saying that. That's not me.
You show up once a year, you know, it's situation. I never see you at any of the events. And all of a sudden, you're rolling it out. Where are you coming from?
Only ladies.
Have you no decency?
You're talking to me. What are you doing?
I'm just saying. You've been riding the rough guy. You've been riding this guy the whole night. You won.
I honestly don't know what you guys say. This is not my thing.
I gotta say, a lot of people I've already heard it from are saying, you know, a couple of people got really the short shrift. I mean, it's like some people didn't get awards that they deserved. Some people didn't deserve the awards that they got.
Yeah.
So
Mary's in the police. She writes magma lights.
Hold on. People are saying, what's a guy got to do to get an award out of you? Well, the reason the reason the foundation brings a couple of extra awards every year is to to gauge the tenor of the room and have who's not getting their props. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special award. Call it the Gershkonman Foundation Special Award for a very special man who deserves a very special autographed copy of Trump, the America We Deserve. It is signed to Gersh, best wishes.
Oh my God.
Andrew Corsello.
Yeah!
He didn't see it coming, but now he's got the floor. So
You'll see it coming.
wow, that's great.
Shake his hand for that.
I shook Donald Trump's hand twice to get that.
Did he really?
That's signed. That's original.
Andrew, show us the.
This is the very best EKG.
Doesn't he always look like he's just received fellatio?
Give that up.
No, I trust that we're going to be friends the rest of our lives because I may need that to sell that on eBay at some point.
This is great, thanks.
And of course, we have a second award.
Yay.
We have a second award.
Second special.
Second special award. We call this the Gershkonman Public Service Award Foundation's second special award. To someone who has earned it. I mean, this person, I won't reveal the sex, but this person, I mean, has been there time and time again, has been there, has been over there, has been here, has been there. Kay Miller, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, she deserves this award. I don't know.
Wow, it's the dream team extra.
And that's not great.
I just want to say that I think there's a very serious misunderstanding about what exactly the Shankagensia is. And we're just going to move on now, but I just want to apologize for that last award ceremony.
Wait. Do you think the winners are a sham?
This whole thing is a sham.
How would you say that?
I'm a sham.
You invented sham. We haven't even really heard of the bus over yet.
Sham!
Thank you.
You're not even able to do it.
Coffee.
Now, where's one? Are you ready? Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, many of you...
Before they slip.
That's a good shirt to wear when you're lefty.
Breathe.
That's what I meant. You can cut little holes.
We have a special... Many of you were here 2 years ago. We're appalled and shocked by a presentation that Pete Weiler made, which was gratuitous in every way. It was emotional, it was very caustic, it was stinging, it was acrimonious, it was biting. But it was real, and it was heartfelt.
It was trenchant.
It was trenchant. It was worthy of the Shankagensia.
Was it magma light?
You can only hope. So backed by popular demand, because as you know, the last award remaining is the Lips and Cup. He has a little tribute to all 5 nominees, which he'd like to sing for you. It's called, what's it called, Pete? Exactly. It's called Exactly. Here he comes, Pete Weiler. First of all, I've been informed that I received the wrong award. And that, in fact, this was the award that was supposed to. That's true. Be awarded. And I'd like to say that this is only a scale model. But since this is, as we all know, a sham, and this was not the correct award, I'd like to award this on my own. MTA, I think, stands for magma-tinged adjectives. I'd like to offer this to Andrew for
Oh yes.
That's allowed, by the way. Get that loud.
Second.
I believe the word is chunk.
Chum.
Now he's got a song he'd like to sing. Tell us a little story about how you wrote this song.
Well, I don't want to tell you that, but I do want to say that in my defense, I've been accused of several of being very squeamish during my emergency vasectomy.
It was an emergency. This guy, I'll tell you, this guy is so fertile. You write the joke yourself, but the guy doesn't live with you.
I'd like to say in my defense, I was awake during the procedure, and I could hear it. It was like sniffing a piano chord.
That's just how fun it is.
It was like clipping shrubbery. So,
We need here, right?
It was like a woodchopper.
Now this is like a little CSNY moment. He's CSN.
alright, I had to transpose this, so an occasional missed chord may happen. I'd like to introduce my partner, Lucy Tunti.
Give him a chance, folks. Give him a chance.
Alright,
Okay, we're ready.
alright? I was trying to figure this out thing. Alright,
Tribute to the 5 nominees. Oh, sorry. Tribute to the 5 nominees.
Y2K has been here and gone. Christ didn't come, didn't drop the bomb. My Palm Pilot didn't crash, got everything I need. So I wonder where all those people in Times Square peed. What's the chorus of this? Still for folks at the bottom, life could be a lot sweeter. So this new millennium needs a different kind of leader with a plan. A millennial man.
No.
Keep the shit from the fans. Millennial man. 3-time winner Paul Lipson brought us far. If I could, I'd buy a millennial car. He's taught South Bronx kids how to run a business. And for all that, he could still win this. But life in the next 1,000 years should be a bit freer. And time could be up for our urban white overseer. Might not be the millennial man. It's not the man. But I'm his biggest fan. Millennial man. Kate Miller fulfilled a special dream by becoming the African continent's con queen. Recognized for believing controlling population need not interfere with frequent copulation.
What's this say?
Keep it together, B.
Now with you, Penn's professor, she's engaged in flirtation. Won't she be something with her doctoral dissertation? A millennial woman. She could be feminine. Millennial woman. Millennial woman.
Okay.
Apple pie or chocolate?
David Shanks, card-carrying member of the intelligentsia, would be surprised if he knew the capital of Valencia. For lack of specific credentials, he gives no apology. He just penned a whole book on technology. Now, after taking time off to trade one-liners, he started a new book on, I can't remember. He's could be millennial man. Millennial man. He's got the plan. Saving our millennial can. Julie Rosenberg does right for clients. Delivering houses He counsels and defends the elderly abused. No plea for assistance is ever refused. Her raven-haired beauty is rivaled by none. Maybe this is her year to be named number one. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm her biggest fan. For years, David Merman got in some good licks.
Yeah.
Fighting for public opinion, beltway politics. He's the kind of new-age man we should certainly extol for taking the nation's pulse with each carefully crafted poll. As a boyfriend and a husband, he hasn't been half bad. And now on top of that, he's one dandy dad. He's a millennial man. He's got the plan. Millennial man. Now let me say a few words about my friend Bluesy. About his employment, he's not terribly choosy. Writing phony letters for gory wrestling mags. Broke into the big time, working as a scab. Some say he'd never put himself on that special list. But maybe Millennial Man is some kind of narcissist. Millennial Man. I'm his biggest fan. Making that shit from the fan. He has no woman. Millennial man.
Go before you present the consequence.
I'm waiting for the dessert.
Oh, okay.
He is. He's a collaborator.
It's up to you. Not that riveting, I can assure you.
I know, oh my God, I absolutely texted him.
You're on it. I'm back. That's up.
Oh, that brought
I
that
know.
down.
Lawrence Goodman's going to be right there.
He's been under
I don't know what happened to him tonight. He's just been like an anonymous.
Let's go. Yeah, let's go.
Wait, not yet, wait, we gotta wait. Oh, you're walking out?
Whoa!
Okay, I thought you might be walking out.
We're walking out at the end, but.
Woo, a presentation. I need to be.
Julie Rosenberg made the apple pie. I didn't know that. She didn't want me to say anything. Well, hold on. Are you going right now?
Yes, I'm going right now.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as is tradition,
He's got to have a piece of everything. He's just got to have a piece of everything.
last year, hey, this is about me.
It's a naked power grab.
No,
We are all
last year's winner is always entitled to make a speech in the event that he or she doesn't win this year. And Lawrence Goodman, our last year's winner, was not nominated this year because he's got nothing to prove. So here he is, Lawrence Goodman.
I didn't even remember my name anymore.
What happened here? I don't
I was
have
just
dessert.
gonna say.
As you all remember last year, if any of you remember last year, I read from Gersh's semi-autobiographical, self-indulgent first novel, using it as inspiration
Oh, don't do this.
for us all.
Thank
And
you.
almost every speech I've given at the annual has been about how Gersh has inspired me. And this year, the inspiration has come, and I hope you all read this, from Gersh's series of articles on the controversy at the Brooklyn Museum of Art.
Yeah.
Oh yes, oh yes. Publishers calling.
Who else would have realized, A, that the First Amendment is important, and two, that Mayor Giuliani is a bully?
Out my house, thank you.
Those articles were seminal in making me aware of that. But it was really more.
Double meaning.
Kudos, you guys.
We saw their voices.
It was really more as an artist that I was inspired by those words that Gersh wrote.
Thank you, thank you.
And to honor those words in a form that is natural and inherent to me, I created an artwork which I think honors Gersh back. My lovely assistant,
I can't see anything.
Kate Miller, will show it.
Yeah.
What is that?
That's my Virgin Gersh. If you notice, it's the Virgin Mary with a picture of Gersh's photo. And I surrounded it with sacrilegious images that I think really come from what Gersh is all about. There is the paper Gersh will one day be working for, the Wave, with the Far Rockaway home base.
How'd you get that?
And then down here, this is one of my favorites. Most of us in the biz, when we talk to other media, we always talk off the record. But Gersh, God bless him, he speaks on the record. He speaks what he feels. He speaks from the heart. He has guts. And this was a quote in Columbia Journalism Review that really, we all would be silent, but Gersh had the guts to say this. Says Post reporter Gersh Kuntzman of Murdoch, quote, "In the newsroom, everyone loves him. He's really charismatic, a very intelligent person, not just a figurehead." Who else would dare say that?
I was talking about Goodman.
Lawrence
The other
Goodman
thing I just
Murdoch.
want to point out is the New York Times masthead, which has been included on this, sacrilegious images. And if you look closely, the masthead has been replaced by critical, seminal journalists of our time. Elizabeth Wurtzel is executive editor. I threw that in for you. Alan Salkin is executive managing editor. And Janet Cook is chief financial officer. I thought you'd like that. And to round it off, Steve on the portrait of the Virgin Gersh. My medium, and people are going to think that this is somehow an insult to Gersh, but this is the medium I always work with. It is actually cilantro. Spraying all over this beautiful art. So Gersh, I hereby present to you this beautiful artwork.
The Virgin.
It's like your phone's out. You thought you're only getting tremendous. I approve of that. Is that it? Thank you. Wow, that was. I mean, if you had been naked, that would have been. Wow. I don't know what to say about that. That was unbelievable. We are up to almost the end of our production number, except for one thing. It's time. Oh, you gotta go.
I gotta go. I'm sorry, I have to leave.
Paul Lipson, or as you know, the Lipson Cup has been renamed for, much like the Cy Young Award, was renamed after.
Finish
I don't know. But anyway, Lipson is the three-time winner of the Lipson Cup and also a nominee here. He has a little presentation to make because he also gives his own award at this event.
Sham!
He's coming. Oh, I think he's just joking up. The floor is yours. Anybody have a piece of chocolate cake for me?
I missed the spray painting, that's all I have to say. I was painting.
You know, I'm asthmatic. I don't know who used aerosol in here. there's a yellow warning light on my liver. Flashing. Do not toast. Do not toast. Do not toast. Do not toast. The threshold has been surpassed. The 12 glasses of red wine. And you've been warned about this, so.
Good for your cholesterol.
257. Who could beat this in this course? Is there anyone here who can beat 257 in LDLs? There's nobody here. My doctor told me, let me just tell you something. My doctor told me I have the arteries of a 97-year-old scam addict who has been dead 10 years. Wow. High this year's winner. Okay. I don't want to belabor the point. I mean, people have to leave. People are in labor. I don't want to belabor the point. There are people lactating here. But what I want to say, hey. Marcelo. Stuff a sock in it.
Put a sock on it.
Hey. That's a miniature tube sock. So I want to know, I mean, how many people here have actually woken up and discovered they have a pollen? 1, 2, 3, maybe. But be honest. I mean, maybe there are 112 people in this whole country who have woken up with a pollen. And it's a rare honor. And I want people to understand that when I present this, that it is a sought-after commodity in this city. It's comedy, amity, lay to rest, the Kimpy, the Gersh Constant Public Service Foundation, and the Paul Lipson Image Award Institute.
Did you repeat that? GKPSAF and what?
Do you have a hearing problem? Is a Shankagensia possibly hard of hearing? I don't read from prepared remarks. I'm not about that. I don't unroll a big scroll. What I do is synthesize what I hear. And what I've been hearing tonight is a move towards healing.
Oh, no. Oh, God, no!
And we haven't come to the nominees yet. Mr. Shank.
We're walking out.
And Mr. Shank actually plays a pivotal role in this presentation. Because I want to say, let us forgive the zealous Millerites. Let us forgive Kay Miller. Let us forgive the festering Shankers.
Haven't heard that one before. Too many times.
Let us forgive the fiery Kunzies their trespasses. Because tonight is about healing.
Jim.
I mean, last year, I think you all remember, those of you who are here, was a torpedo. I mean, it was a torpedo across my bow.
Torpedoes don't go across your bow.
It went
Where
right
did they go?
Where did they go? Mr. Weiler and the Weilerians.
They shot across the bow. Torpedoes in the water.
Today, today
He said bowel.
is about. I told you about the yellow caution light on my liver, right? It says do not toast. I'm trying very, very hard to stay focused here. I'm not reading from prepared remarks. I have no guidepost, no map on the wall, no teleprompter. What I need to do is to say to you, tonight is about peacemaking.
Can I get a witness? Can I get a witness?
Call it for peace.
Gene Madden, please, you're a special guest. Don't exploit this opportunity.
Sorry.
What I'm trying to say to you is that it's not about masturbation. No.
Laundry bag.
Laundry bag.
Laundry bag.
I didn't retell that story. I swear to God, I did not retell that story. New Year's or Thanksgiving or Christmas. What I'm trying to say to you, and you know, there are people here who perhaps may not entirely swallow this, but what I'm trying to say to you that tonight is about healing. You know, Gersh Constant and Paul Lipson clearly have been at odds. We have been butting heads.
Can't believe it.
Yes. Yes, I know, Gene Madden. You can repeat these allegations, but I will say before I present the pollen that categorically, I I am not a tool of the Tradeways Commission. And as my
Sham.
wait a minute. As my spokesman, Carmine Agnello, has made clear,
Trilateral Commission.
I have never endorsed the trucking of municipal waste out of this city. I want you to know
Yes,
that.
you have.
Despite the coverage that you have given me in the New York
Well, what
Post.
should we do? Put it on barges?
And I want to make entirely clear that this is not about a witch hunt. This is not about looking for enemies, because for us, hey, focus.
Focus on you.
For us, Gersh Kunzman, I mean, despite his ostentatious philanthropy, his penchant for frilly causes,
That's a penchant.
despite... Whoa. Despite, I mean, you've all been to his fish fry for Friends of Trout. You have all been to the events he's sponsored for Coalition for the Mobile Phoneless. I mean, let's be honest, this man has given something of himself. I must admit that, despite the rift, and there is a rift, we'll address that momentarily. This man has given of himself, and we're not just talking about the people who lack phones, cellular phones. There are a handful of people who lack mobile phones in this city. We're talking about the people who are faced with inequitable roaming charges, out-of-state fees. Gersh has been in the forefront in championing their causes. He has raised the cellular fist against the enemies of equal distribution of cellular phone service. What I'm saying to you, and I don't really appreciate the laughter at this point. What I'm saying to you is...
That's good, because you're not getting it.
Zing! What I'm saying to you is, I am extending... Hey, to you, I am extending the oil-drizzled and flour-coated hand of fried mea culpa.
Oh, I don't know what it means.
Fried mea culpa.
I don't know what it means. Oh, you're trying to get it.
Because the enemy here is not Gersh Kunzman and his zealous Kunzies.
No way.
It's not the fiery Millerites. It's not the anarcho-syndicalists. It's not the blistering shankers. Festering.
Is it festering or blistering? It's hard to tell.
I can't tell because the symptoms keep changing. The enemy...
Ululating.
Wait. The enemy... Oh, please. Oh, please. Of course I will. The enemy, ladies and gentlemen, is not any of these. It's Lawrence Goodman. And his Goodman Symposium for Better Gift Giving, commonly known as Gas Bag. And for that reason alone, Lawrence Goodman is stricken from the list of nominees